All right, so welcome to the last class of HTML and CSS. I figured we'd do a little bit of a review. So if you're catching this video online, this is going to be like a grand tour through HTML and CSS. How's that sound to everybody?
Sounds good.
See some nodding heads too. Dominic?
What was the question?
Do you want a large pizza with pepperoni?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Just checking. Nathan? Nate? Good? Robert? Ann? So please chime in at any time as we do this review. Let's let it be a collective review. And so as we talk about things, let's talk about what we learned this semester. And then your final project is going to be to create a website. And so that'll be your final. So we're not getting together next week. So no class next week. It's finals week. We're not getting together for that. But it's just a final project, which it's already up in our area on our course website. And it's to create any website you want. I don't care how simple or how complex. So if you just want to do above the fold with Flexbox and some big hero image covering the whole page, background cover, and some text right in the center, cool. And if you wanted to do something with mini pages for a friend's company or something like that, or for yourself, cool. So it's a very low-key and casual, no stress, no pressure, and just have fun with it. So ultimately, at the end of the day, coding should be fun. Should be a good time. And it's like, yeah, okay. It's like just learning skills to make things which are beautiful, which help people. What could be better than that? So a couple ways we could do this review is we could kind of like look at each thing here, or we could also just like start building things and talk about the concepts. And then once we've built something and talked about the concepts, then we could maybe come back and look at all the reviews. So I think that's the route I want to go, is just to let's build something and talk about the concepts. And so as we build something, I'd like to have your input onto what we're going to build. But my default is to, and I'll do this in stages maybe, 0, 1, and we'll put in an index and an HTML, and then we could just keep copying as we kind of hit, I don't know what you want to call it, as we hit milestones or something, like, hey, this is a good milestone. We'll just copy into the next one. But the first thing is, we talked about separation of concerns. And HTML is for the structure, and CSS is for the formatting, and JavaScript is for the functionality. And so that's the holy trinity of web programming, creating websites. You have your HTML for your structure, your CSS for your formatting, your JavaScript for client-side functionality. And so we haven't talked about JavaScript. That's a different class. But that reminds me, I just need to make a note to myself somewhere about MongoDB. I guess I'll do that on my phone. And I'll put my phone right here just as a reminder. So that's right there, to remind me that that's something we need to have a course on here in our program. So the first thing we looked at with HTML was just this doc type and all these basic tags for a basic page. And so the doc type tells us the document type, which is it's an HTML document. And this is the declaration, right? So it declares that this is an HTML document. And then we have the HTML tag, and language is English. And then the head area, the body, and the closing tag. Most tags have an opening tag and a closing tag. Some of them are self-closing, like the image tag is self-closing. You no longer put a self-closing slash like this, like was popular at one point in time. You no longer do that. And then each tag has attributes and values. And these can also be called tags or elements. So probably more precise to call them elements. And charset UTF-8 just is the encoding used for encoding the text on this. And so that's all pretty nifty-difty. And one of the things we also learned about, there's a meta tag, and the meta tag was viewport, so meta viewport. So how do we do that meta viewport? I actually have to look that up. Meta viewport tag. You know how I could get it? Is if I I'm going to copy this for a second, do that, there we go. So that put it in. And so here is the meta name viewport, content width equals device width, user scalable equals no, initial scale equals 1, maximum scale 1, minimum scale 1. Is that the same code that we had when we were doing viewport? So I'm just going to come down here and look at the meta viewport, Command Shift F, viewport, and it found it right there. They're doing this different now. Content equal width equals device width, initial scale 1 is what we had, initial scale 1. So initial scale 1. This has a maximum scale and a minimum scale too. And it also has user scalable no. So this meta viewport, we saw that that helps with mobile devices, right? So meta name viewport. And I'm going to take out this one right here. I don't know what that one does. I'd have to research that. And so that's a good thing to include on your web pages, just when you're starting out. Don't forget the meta viewport. And we saw how that helps on mobile, so we explored that. And maybe we'll review that as we get to that point. And then the title area is what goes into the thing up at the tab. So the title area would be like, this one would be, our company name maybe, and it's going to be called Aegean Skates. Maybe we make skateboards. I don't know what Aegean means. Sounds Greek. I think I need to look it up.
Related to Aegis, which I believe is something.
Aegean, pertaining to Aegean Sea or islands, pertaining to or denoting prehistoric civilization that preceded the historic Hellenic period and flourished on the various islands and nearby regions of the Aegean Sea. Aegean. Aegean, did it say? Aegean. Yeah, cool. I like it. So that's the name of our page. And next thing we might want to do is we might want to have a Fav icon. So if we wanted to create a Fav icon and it's for a skate company, we might do a skateboard wheel. And I'm going to go with wheel, not wheels. And just look at images and then go for tools and usage rights, labeled for reuse. And wow, that really dropped my selection. And I would just like a simple wheel, so I might change this to type clip art. Maybe this one. That's fine. And save image as. I'll save it to my desktop, wheel, and then go find that on my desktop and copy it, and then go to my project and paste it in. New folder, image, paste it there, and then I could go to Fav Icon Generator. And favicongenerator.net, real favicongenerator.net. Select your Fav icon picture. It's on the desktop. Let's see what it looks like. And I think we'll go for a solid white background. And add solid white background. It's kind of a cool logo. And use a white silhouette. I like it. And turn your picture into a monochrome icon. Theme color. I guess maybe we'll do red. That's cool. I like that one. Sorry. And Fav Icon Generator options. I'll place it right at the root of my website, recommended. I cannot or I do not want to place Fav. It sounds like Dr. Seuss. I cannot or I do not want to eat green eggs and hams. Thank you, Sam, I am. I cannot, or I do not want to place Fav Icon files at the root of my website. Instead, I'll place them here. So if we wanted to, we could set them in some other place. So we could say image and Fav Icon. And so we'll do that. And let's see what happens this time. We'll do it differently. So it's building it. And so now in our thing here, we're going to do a new folder, Fav Icon. And then here's the code. So we'll pop that into our and it's asking for it from root, so I could make those all relative. And now it's saying, well, where's the file? So I need to download your package. Grab all those and put them into my Fav Icon folder. And then the wheel is what we built it off, so I guess I'll put that there. How many people this is not helpful to you in the least, what we're doing? I just want to make sure my teaching's working. How many people it's helpful to see this stuff again? Like, oh yeah, like how would we approach building a project? Okay, cool. All right, so that should fire up our Fav Icon stuff. And let's see what happens. So we got that little wheel. Nice. And I think it's pretty good. So now we're going to do a skateboard company, I guess. A G in skates. And we'll probably want a header. And then we're probably going to have a main area. And then we'll have a footer. And then we might have like a couple of articles. And each article might have like a couple of sections. We might do that 2 times. So there's like some nice semantic HTML. So we've learned about semantic HTML. And the tags have meaning. That's what semantic means. So those tags tell us something about the website. And then we need to get our CSS going. So we're going to link to our CSS. And where's our CSS located? I think maybe I'll create another folder here and call it CSS. And I'll drag it in there. And then here I'll link. And with that CSS, maybe I'm going to rename that. I'm going to call it index. So the name of the CSS will correspond to the name of the HTML file. And then I know which one goes with which, right? And I might even call it index main. And so now I'm starting to think about scoping my work a little bit. I might also have some CSS which just applies to everything. And I'm probably going to have some CSS which is like index media query and 600 plus. Cool. And then I probably also need a reset. So I could go get that McLeod reset, wherever we talked about CSS resets. And grab that and drop it in there. Now the order of the CSS matters. So the first thing I want to link to is CSS McLeod reset. And then I want to link to CSS main And then I want to link to CSS index main. And then I want to link to that. And then on here, I want to do my media query. And what's the attribute? Media, right? And then what's the query size? Or how do we do this? What do we put in? Something like this, isn't it? So let's go look that back up. We learned about media queries right here. And hands-on exercises, solutions, 06. Media query 600 plus. So it has media min width 600 px. Min width equals 600 px. So at minimum and upwards, this is when this one's going to be applied. Does that look good? So we have our McCloud reset. Let's open up all that CSS. And then main hits, and this one hits, and then this one hits. So that's going to be a big reset on everything. And then we have main. And on main, we might want to do things that we could use across the whole site. So we'll just think about this. And then on index, that'll be mobile. And then on index media query 600 plus, that'll be, you know, larger screen sizes. So our header. Let's talk about our header first. Our header is going to have our navigation. So what element do we want to use for that? Nav, okay. And maybe our header is also going to have our logo. What element do we want to use for that?
Header. What again?
HTML element logo. What tag should we use for a logo element if the logo is text? Header nav UL logo anchor company name. Header H1 image Acme H1. So they're using an H1. That's interesting.
It's possible that they're using it even though it's an image. They're using it for the semantic reasoning of older monitors and translating the page as the header. Even if it is just an image, it is still the logo counting as a header.
Yeah, I wouldn't use H1 on an image because headings need to translate to an outline, and an image isn't going to be read by screen readers or search engines as text, except unless the alt text got read. So maybe that'd work. Alt text being read as Acme Inc. So let's do H1 though. H1, and this is going to be a GN skates. And what font am I using here? I'm using no font, right? I haven't specified a font family. So as a font family, which CSS spreadsheet am I going to put font family on? Is font family going to be something that's site-wide? Right, yeah, so let's put that on main. So we'll go to Google, fonts. Amazing. I'll look at Roboto. We'll go straight to Google Fonts first. And here's Roboto. And I'm going to hit plus sign. And then regular. There's a bunch of different ones. I'll come down here and click this. And customize. And I could choose regular, black, and bold, and medium. And I want to look at maybe light. And look at my load time. Moderate load time. So that's not good. So maybe I'll go with a... Well, one thing I could do here is a GN skates, right? And apply to all fonts. So out of these fonts, just from a design standpoint, we could start thinking like this one's pretty neat. Incna Antiqua. I kind of like that. It's kind of got a bit of a Greek feel to it, and kind of like a little bit of interesting angles. Like when you skateboard, you're interested in interesting angles on structures and things. So I kind of like that one. We could look at that as black, or we could look at it as extra bold. Or bold. I'm liking bold. Semi-bold versus bold versus semi-bold versus medium versus semi-bold. So we'll do that one too. And then we'll come back and look at our font family. Load time slow. So we've got, let's see, a GN, we're going to go, Incna Antiqua will go bold. And for Roboto, and what I'm looking here is load time slow. I'm watching that. I think we're going to have to stay away from, light is pretty neat contrast, but we'll get rid of bold and black. And we'll go light, regular, medium, and load time is moderate. What happens if we get rid of one of those and one of those? So that's fast. But when we go to 3 of them, it gets a little bit slow. So maybe we'll just start out with regular and medium. So making decisions about load time. So now I could go to embed. I'm going to grab this and bring it back to my stuff and put it, I guess, just like right after the reset. And then I could use it with this. And I'll apply that to HTML. Except for this one is going, well, the header's on every page. This one I think, okay, so good. That's my whole HTML page. Everything's normally going to be Roboto. And now I'm going to do HTML. I could do header H1. Header H1. Because that's going to be that one, right? Does it make sense? G and skates. So what would happen if I did that? What's that do? Versus this. What's that do? Versus this. Dominic, Nate, Steve, Teresa, and Robert. What's that? It's going to select header H1.
H1 header is the direct child of the header.
Any H1, regardless of how deeply nested. Only direct children. What about this? Just siblings following. The first sibling following header. That's an H1. Only if it's right next to it, I think. And in this one, all siblings following H1. And so we could review that a little bit. And selectors. I need to just put that one file in there as soon as I find it. Selectors in here. CSS selectors. That's the one. I like this one. I just need to drop this in here. Called it fun. I don't know what's all what anymore. So div P, what's that going to select? What number? 23 through 26. What about now? Okay, so it could skip over stuff, right? So all siblings that follow a div that are a paragraph. What about now? $23. Cool. All right, so I think we'll just do that. Keep it more narrowly scoped. So only immediate direct children that are H1s under a header. And a G and skates. Now where do we want that header to be on mobile? We're dealing mobile first. Probably we're going to stack it. Boom, boom. Header will be at the top of the page, ideally. That'd be nice to have header at the top of the page. And then your navigation down at the bottom. But since they're all grouped in header, that's going to be a little bit hard. So that's just like an interesting, because what I'm thinking is it'd be nice to have the header on desktop up top, the top of the screen, but then on mobile to kind of come down to the bottom, underneath everything. So your navigation's at the bottom after you scroll through the page on mobile. Or we could do a flyout from the left and have it be its own deal. So on mobile, it flies out from the left and also on desktop. But I don't want it to be like on desktop, like, yeah, it's like a mobile deal. So we could have it fly out from the left on mobile, but then be up top on desktop. That's interesting. What would you like to see? So I kind of like the idea of a button and have it come out from the side, right? You all like that? So how are we going to make the header be off screen on mobile. Something about input types, right? Input type checkbox. Something about labels. Label, ID, and this is going to be header nav. And this will be ID header nav. And if you check this, and something appears and disappears, and we don't want the checkbox to be seen, so we could say body input, which has an attribute selector, type equals checkbox, display none. Okay? So now the checkbox won't be seen, but label's still there. And with the label, we want that to be seen. So click me. We'll change that. And we want that to be positioned pretty much in the top part of the screen. Body, label. If we wanted to, just so it doesn't select, we could do type equal for, the attribute for is equal to header nav. And we could say position fixed, top 15, left 15. And picks, people say shy away from picks, so we could say 1 rem. How many pixels would that be on most browsers? 1 rem. How many pixels is that on most browsers? 16. Why? A rem is a root element, and the root element of a root m, and a root m is 16 pixels on most browsers. So that's some pretty good looking CSS. You all understand that so far? Attribute selector there. And we could do color just for now. Red and font size. Red. Font size, sorry. 4 rem. Let's just see. Okay. Just want to make sure that this was actually selecting that. So now when that is clicked, how do we get the cursor to go over that to turn into the finger?
Cursor pointer.
Pointer. Cool. And now when that is clicked, we want something to happen. So body, label, and it's for this one. When that is checked, right? For the immediate sibling, which is a header, we're going to do something. And is that going to work? Because is this the immediate sibling? It's label, and then that's the immediate sibling. There's header. So let's check our selector understanding. And our selector understanding tells us if we had something here, and we say div plus p, are we actually going to get this 23? No, because it's not an immediate sibling. But if we have this, it'll get all that follow and jump, right? So this plus header is not going to hit the header because that's not immediately following. Can the label be right after the input? Now it will work. Does that make sense? And so when it's clicked, we're going to do top, we'll do left, 200 pixels. And what's in there? Aegean skates right now. But we need position on it. So we need body, header, and it's going to be position fixed, top 0, left 0. And left 200. You think it would have moved over? HTML header 1, input type, header nav, position fixed, top 0, left 0. Label, header nav, checked. Let's just try this first. Anybody have any thoughts? What is not working? Let's try this one. And move this up. Let's change that back. Keep it specific. And let's look at our logic.
One thing I'm wondering is if you have on that last CSS block, body or label is a direct child of body, but in the HTML, the input is the direct child of body.
This is any first level child. So these are first level children. It's a good thought. And we could test that by here, body header. Now everything in there should turn red because that's first level child. So now that turned red, right? Everything in there. Robert, Ann, can you guys help me figure this one out?
What's up?
So we have a label, so body label, and it has an attribute selector 4 where it's equal to this. And we have position fixed, top, and if I do this color red, it's going to change the label, which is click me, to red.
Okay.
So that's working.
Got it.
And then we have body label for header nav, same as this, but when it's checked, right? We want to, when it's checked, maybe now we'll change the color red. Okay, so we're going to change the color red of what? What's that? Maybe the text. So nothing, but then check it. No. So am I using this right? Checked, selected.
I don't think you're not. You shouldn't be doing the label. It should be the checkbox. The label can't be checked, but the checkbox.
Thank you. So the label can't be checked, but the checkbox. So the checkbox is just ID header nav. So we could just do this. Right?
Should be.
And just for clarity, we might do this. And that's the same thing. Just for more code readability. It's any label with the header nav, right? So we could take this part off, and now it's going to be any label header nav should be red. And so the label, oh, but it needs to be the checkbox, not the label. Sorry, input. And the input is color red's not going to change it. ID is header nav on the input. That should work. Let's just see what happens. No, let's try it this way.
Input does it, just header nav will do it.
ID header nav. What's being made red? The checkbox is being made red. So that's what it is. So checked and then plus header. There we go. And it does need to be the like that, because now this is selecting the input header checked. There we go. Do you ever like just start bleeding sometimes? You have a cut and you're like, oh, my cut's bleeding. You guys are human too? I chewed on the scab. I don't know if you know that. Notice that. I was like, ooh, skin. And I start bleeding. I think this will work. That was like one of those weird moments where it's like, this story's not going anywhere. Yay! So that took us 10 minutes to solve. That's not trivial. And thank you for your astute observations. So now instead of color red on that, we could do this. And now we just need to change where it's going. So if it's 16 rem, 16 pixels, 10 rem is 160. 15 would be 240. And we want it to be negative. And then we could do left to 0. Right? And now we could make this header a little bit. A header is a block level element. So if we put a border around it, see the border, and we could do a height 100 VH. But now I can't click that button anymore because it's behind, right? So I need my button, which is header nav, for header nav. I need that to be Z index 1, higher than 0. So now it's on the top. And let's make the width on this 15 rem. See what that looks like. Now let's make the background color what color? And now we need to somehow make it look nice. So this is the header, transition, property, all, transition, timing function, ease, transition, duration, 500 milliseconds. Are you liking it? I'm liking it. And got a G in skates, needs to be down a little bit. And so the G in skates is H1, and it's the header. And so a G in skates, because we're going to have a button up there to bring it out and put it back. The G in skates is this is the button for click me. The G in skates is inside the header. The header's been given all this. It's position fixed. So now we could say for that H1, header H1. If we wanted to, we could keep it up there. There's this like hard to like organize CSS to be readable. Because if I, this header H1 set in the font up here is nice, but I think I'm going to bring this down. Because when I read this code, HTML, cool, the whole document. Body, input, type, checkbox. Label's actually before that. I'm going to bring this down before I lose it from copy. So I might change my label to the top, because that comes next in my HTML. So my body label, okay, and it has the header nav, and it's position fixed, and that's going to be the click me, one rem, run rem, pointer, z index, and then body input, type checkbox, input type checkbox, display none. Okay. And then we have body header. I don't know if I maybe want this one, the body header first, and then up here, because that's where I kind of, and maybe put a comment here of control, show, hide of sidebar. And I could copy that, and I could kind of say down here, end, begin, right? So I could kind of say that, or I might just have it like that. I kind of like that, because that's pretty precise code. And so here I format my header. So I have my label, and then I format my header, and then here's what controls it coming in and out. But input comes before header, so this might all be good up here. Just thinking about what's the most readable code. Like, that's pretty readable. I like the label first, and then input, and then we have our header, and then right here what we're going to do is we're going to have position relative to itself, absolute to the page, or fixed to the page, and absolute to the next thing up the DOM, which has position, which is what? It's header H1. It is the H1 is inside the header, and the header has position fixed. So this is going to key off of that, and I'm going to do it off the top of that. 3 rem, 48 pixels, and now let's take a look. Okay, so I brought a GN down. You see that? Yeah? And now the next thing, I'm liking that. There's a lot of good that we've just integrated, a whole bunch of different things we've learned into that. And that is great lean code, 41 lines of CSS, good semantic HTML. We have our CSS reset in there, which is amazing. We have our media queries. We're building mobile first, even though we're looking at this at desktop, right? You know, I'm envisioning it on mobile, and this is what it looks like on mobile so far, which is what we need. And then when it goes to desktop, we'll pop it up full screen, so it's not like this. We'll overwrite our mobile CSS. You want your mobile CSS to be your lightest CSS because it's going over cellular networks, not hardwired home computer, desktop, widescreen, you know, fast connection. So the next thing I think about is doing a Fav icon for the click me, doing a SVG. And so we'll do that in the next video because this one is already a ways long. We'll do this in a series.